Welcome. Well, today Rachel and I, John, are talking about Wetiko. And I'm going to start just explaining a bit about what Wetiko is, and then we'll go from there. So the article that I'm reading from, which gives a very good explanation, is called Wetiko Breaking the Curse of Evil, and it's by a chap called Paul Levy. And basically it says we are a species in the midst of a massive psychic epidemic that has been brewing in the cauldron of humanity from the beginning of time. This psycho-spiritual disease of the soul, which Native Americans have called Wetiko, can be thought of as the bug in the system. It informs and animates the madness that is playing itself out in our lives, both individually and collectively, on the world stage. So that's a pretty big statement to make. From the beginning of time, there's been a psycho-spiritual disease of the soul. Mm-hmm. What do you make of that, Rachel?
Yeah, so it's interesting because I've got the book here, which is Dispelling Wetiko by Paul Levy, and I'm kind of 2/3 of the way through it. So it's a very intense book and it's very fascinating. And the reason why it's quite an intense book, but the reason why it's quite, it kind of makes sense to me is because I've experienced shamanic medicine, specifically ayahuasca, and you have too, haven't you?
Yes, that's right. Yeah, in Peru. Yeah.
And so I think if you read this book and you hadn't actually had that experience of seeing through the veil of what reality truly is, it might be quite difficult to land the concept of Wetiko. But I think having that extra dimension of understanding, everything kind of falls into place. Because what the book basically says, and it's a difficult thing to condense down into a sort of soundbite, but what it basically says is that there is a sort of non-local entity energy that kind of sits below this this reality, this slice of reality.
Yeah. So
this is not a living life form. This is just energy which is looking for rifts in the kind of membrane that separates this dimension from the lower density vibrations, and it's looking for ways to come through, to seep through, to work through cracks. It's looking for cracks, and it's looking for people who are sort of vulnerable that it works through. So in this sense, and Wetiko really is the shamanic name for evil. And so what it basically means is that people aren't evil. Evil is working through people, particularly if they're unconscious, if they're traumatized, and yes, specifically not conscious to this energy playing out and how they are being taken over by Wetiko energy. So the book is all about, and actually this is the teachings of medicine in my experience, is how to navigate the labyrinth and to really be able to look a demon in the eye and to be able to fully face it and fully transmute it and collapse it, as opposed to trying to fight it or run away from it. In medicine, you can't. You kind of have to go through, and the way to the light is through the darkness. That's my experience of it.
Yes, yeah, because in a way, by avoiding it, it tends to suggest there's some fear, and if there's fear, then we tend to avoid, and it will only come back.
The point is, everything that manifests in our reality, in our experience, is there because we've manifested it in. So at some level, it's all a mirror of an inner part of ourselves. So for example, if we have some unresolved trauma that is maybe frozen trauma from our childhood, that is in our subconscious, in our shadow, that we don't have conscious awareness of, the hologram of reality will show us, it will keep showing it to us over and over again, different people in different disguises. The same flavor will keep showing itself, and usually it will get bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger until we have to deal with it. And so whatever we're manifesting out there on the screen of our awareness is a sign. It's actually all a gift, because it's a sign of something inside of us that hasn't yet, is a blind spot, a psychic blind spot. We haven't yet collapsed. And so inadvertently, because the illusion is so strong, the trance that we're in, this illusion of duality, it's such a strong, convincing illusion that we get caught up in the reality of it, and we believe that this thing out there is evil and we need to fight it. And inadvertently, we give it power.
Yeah.
And this is what the Wetiko energy feeds on, because it doesn't have a life force of its own. So it feeds from the light, and it's like a black hole sucking the light into it. So this is so the only way to really dispel Wetiko, which is the name of the book, Dispelling Wetiko, is to really face our demons, which is kind of what you do in a medicine journey. You start to get curious. Hello, who are you? What are you doing here? What's this showing up? You know, what am I being shown? How is this a gift? And some of the most horrendous demons that we have appearing on our screen, it might take us quite a long time to land that, because we're so triggered by them. So most of us, if we have unresolved trauma, we're very easily triggered into fight or flight. That kind of judgment of you're wrong, I'm right, you're bad, you're evil, I'm good. And then in that duality judgment, we inadvertently feed the Wetiko energy rather than collapsing it by facing it and loving it. Thank you for showing up. What are you here to show me? Thank you. You're a great gift. If I can find the gift in you, essentially you lose all your power over me, because I can collapse it within, and therefore I don't need to manifest you. So there is a gift in Wetiko.
So coming back to, I quite like the idea, you know, it says from the beginning of time, and also we can talk about the collective consciousness. There's the individual, the evil within each one of us, if you like, and then there's the collective, there's like the oneness, the wholeness. And one thing I thought about,
this is the point, it is all one.
Yeah. So one thing I thought about, looking at from that perspective rather than the individual perspective, because as you say, we've all got our demons inside us, but from a oneness perspective, we've all got a Hitler inside of us, we've all got a Trump inside of us, whatever, you know, we're all interdependent, we're all interconnected.
Yeah, because there is no individual. This is the point, John. There is, at a metaphysical level, there is no you and me. We're all one.
Exactly. Yeah, we're all part of this. So when it says, you know, from the beginning of time, there's been this Wetiko, curse of evil, I thought of it from like a light worker's point of view as well, because in my experience, many light workers are quite delusional, and they don't see themselves as having evil inside or trauma, or, you know, no, I'm fearless, I'm above all that.
Yes.
And so I came up with this idea where there's often we like to think there's a blueprint, let's say a blueprint of higher consciousness, which is where we want to tap into to get our soul purpose or to be the best we can be. But how about this? There's a blueprint of Wetiko consciousness, of evil consciousness, which is equally powerful in its way, and in its different way. So if we go back to beginning of time and we see the way man's so-called evolved, but if you look at history, you know, it's all about killing each other, and now we're at this point in time where we're starting to kill the planet big time as well. So obviously this Wetiko energy, this blueprint of evil has got a really, really strong hold right now on the collective consciousness. And until we're willing to look at this, because I can't completely agree with what you said about this like hypnotizing, like the collective is under this spell of this hypnotic spell, that it's okay to kill the planet, that it's okay to kill each other, you know, if we have a good reason, as in invade other countries or whatever. Now, although many people are waking up, it's still going on. It's still happening. So the question is, this let's call it, I'm going to call it just for the sake, Wetiko blueprint. How can we address that? How can we address it?
Okay, so just you talked across quite a few things there. So one of the interesting things that he talks about a lot in the book is spiritual bypassing, which is not wanting to look at the darkness and only wanting to look at the light. And unfortunately, people like Esther Hicks, for example, and Abraham Hicks have kind of fed that a little bit, in the sense of it's like only focus on what you do want, be on your high flying disc, only be in a high vibration. And that's led people down a bit of a tricky path, is that people only want the light. And so anything that is not of the light, they want to turn away from and expel from their life. And they kind of they go into judgment and they make it wrong. So pulling back from when it says from the beginning of time, what it's essentially saying is that Wetiko is built into the program. So what you have to really pull back and realize is that this illusion is actually like a cosmic training program. It's like a very advanced gaming software, and it's a training program in how to be love. And it's fiendishly full of challenges. And the challenges, a bit like in a gaming software, you do level 1, and then you go to level 2, and then you do level 2, and then you go to level 3. So it's like we're at quite an advanced level now, where the Wetiko, where the challenges are getting really, really tricky, because they're so ugly, so huge. It's like, how could I possibly love that? How could I possibly love vaccines, Bill Gates, being microchipped, control? How could I possibly love that? You know,
or love self-isolation. Yeah,
exactly. So I think it's really useful to think of the analogy of the Garden of Eden. So at the beginning of the story, the archetypal story, it was all one. It was just perfect resonance, abundant, lush, beautiful, harmonic resonance and tranquility. And then the serpent, the evil serpent, persuaded Adam and Eve to eat from the tree of knowledge. So they moved from heart and resonance with being in this wonderful Garden of Eden, and they moved from heart to mind. And the challenge with being in the mind is the mind judges and sorts everything into good, bad, right, wrong, pain, pleasure, yes, no, guilty, not guilty, and positive, negative. So the mind, so in this move from the heart to the mind, we have gone into all pain and suffering, which is buying into the illusion that everything is separate. Even to the extent with light workers, there is a kind of theme, and this is, I don't mean to sound judgmental, it's an observation. There is there's a narrative amongst light workers that certain of us have been incarnated in this time as spiritual warriors, come to save the planet from all the people who aren't awake. Which, if you think about it, is actually the Cartman drama triangle: persecutor, victim, rescuer, taken to the nth degree. So all these rescuers. I'm a spiritual being from the Pleiades who's been incarnated to save the planet. So if I can only find all the other Pleiadians and maybe some people from Sirius, they're okay. You know, we can all get together. And
Don't forget Andromeda.
Oh yeah, bring in Andromeda, they're okay. And if you were
Yeah.
sort of from Lemuria in a past life, you're okay too. So now there's this group, there's this army of light workers who are here to battle the evil. So can you see how tricky this program is? Because what if every single one of us is a star seed here on this cosmic training program in how to be love, in how to find a way to transcend the illusion and be love, to the point where we are such beings of love, like Christ, like Buddha, that we can see through the illusion of separation and duality and love it all. And in that moment, kaboom, it's like we return to the Garden of Eden, because we've collapsed the illusion of separation, which I said is the source of all pain and suffering. Now,
so
easier said than done, of course.
Easier said than done, absolutely. So coming back to Wetiko, I just what you said there. One of the bits of advice I give is, you know, the real virus, whether it's Wetiko or Corona, is fear. You know.
Yeah, absolutely.
And coming from that, and just get my thread back here. Yes, so the as you say, it doesn't matter who you are, what your beliefs are, if they're coming from a place of separation or egoic type consciousness, where there's me and you, this and that, up and down, good and bad, then there's something missing. There's something not being seen.
Yes.
And as you say, once that is seen, once we're truly embodied in our hearts, embodied in our soul spirit, then you're coming from a completely different place. And so here's the thing with Wetiko. So let's just say people listening here, and you know, it's a tough one because no one wants to believe that there's a blueprint of evil that exists in every single person on this planet. It's a tough one. Who wants to believe that? We just want to see the good in stuff, especially if you're spiritually bypassing. But let's just say for a moment it's true. Then what to do? And here's the thing, and it goes what you've just been saying there, is what to do is about embracing it. And how many people are willing to embrace evil?
Yeah. Well, this is the point, is that it is, as you say, it is about fear and moving from fear into faith, into moving into that vertical alignment where you can see beyond the delusion that there is just love beyond this illusion. So the point about the Wetiko is that because the Wetiko is working through these cracks, these places of trauma that we haven't yet healed and resolved, you get what are called Wetiko blind spots, is how he describes it in the book, the Wetiko blind spot. So the Wetiko blind spot is all of those things that you haven't dealt with in here that you're now projecting out there. So everything in the illusion starts to become a gift. And so you can move from resistance, and this is what you have to do in medicine. I'm sure you've experienced this, John. If you try and fight, if you go into ego resistance in a medicine journey, it's horrific. You have to completely surrender. You have to completely say, hello, who are you? What are you doing here? What are you here to teach me, demon, monster? And usually it's connected into whatever intention that you set. So if your intention is to find love, you'll be shown all the places of pain and wounding in your heart that are blocking your ability to open to love, for example. Same with money. If you say, oh, you know, to the medicine, show me prosperity, you'll be shown every piece of wounding that needs to be healed around your relationship with money, including with your father, because money is very patriarchal. So everything in the illusion starts to become a gift. And so collapsing our resistance to what's on the screen and really starting to get curious. How did I manifest this? What's it showing me? And where is the place in me that, where's my blind spot? And so this comes down to sort of trauma healing and particularly somatic experiencing, where you're actually starting to feel your way through life rather than think your way through life.
And with the you know, any virus, again, we just had a quick chat earlier before we started the video about the autoimmune side of things. And so the couple of points is, one is, you know, mind, body, spirit. And we've got this, you know, each is reflecting the other. So when things start manifesting on the physical, they're often at the lowest level of vibration, if you like. In other words, they need to be attended to.
Yes.
And as we're seeing with the coronavirus, if they're not, then eventually an autoimmune disease will kill you. It kills its host, which is kind of fascinating. In some respect.
Well, this is the interesting thing. If you take that to the Marianne Williamson was talking about this yesterday. If you think of the virus killing its host, it's exactly like humanity on Gaia killing the host planet. So coronavirus is a very interesting mirror of humanity, because it's like it's a virulent infection which is kind of only out for itself. And it will, wherever it lands, it will take whatever it can and kill, and then move on to the next thing, and until eventually it kills everything, and therefore it kills itself. So in many ways, coronavirus is mirroring humanity. The flip side to this is, of course, so many people have been praying for world healing, for peace. Greta Thunberg, you know, all of these people, all of the collective has been praying to infinite intelligence, this collective intention to create a different way of being on the planet. So here infinite intelligence has given us the most amazing solution, because the Wetiko energy, which wants to kill and fight, it can't even see it, it can't nuke it. There's no amount of machine guns or armies that it can send in. The only army that can be sent in is the army of love of the NHS workers to look after all the people who are sick. And so suddenly the army is the army of love. It's a very fascinating manifestation, because essentially it's you look at all the, like Trump and Boris Johnson, you listen to their spelling, I mean the words that they're speaking around coronavirus. It's all about the invisible enemy. We have to fight it, we have to conquer it. What about zapping it, you know, with light, or injecting disinfectant to poison it? You know, it's kind of like, you see in the spelling, you can hear the Wetiko programming, which is all about conflict, war, battle, fight,
enemy.
Exactly. And these are the very deep programs which are now coming into the conscious awareness to realize that we are being given an opportunity here, because there is an enemy here that isn't actually an enemy at some level. It's actually a gift.
Well, again, absolutely. It's to be embraced. You know, this is very controversial to say, make coronavirus your friend. In fact, make it your best friend, because if it's got its own programming, but how do you change that programming? is to embrace it and then allow whatever needs to work through, because that's
Yes,
true healing. That's true healing,
exactly.
isn't it?
Like they
Because
say with cancer, it's like, you know, have a
yeah.
conversation with your cancer. What are you here to
Mm.
show me? What have I missed?
Yeah,
You
yeah.
know,
What's the message here? I was sharing earlier about that for many people it could be a fear of death.
yes,
Certainly, when this first came a few weeks ago, in the collective consciousness, almost of the whole planet, there was a huge fear around death and dying,
yes.
and in a way, would you agree that's like unresolved trauma, or it's unresolved fear? However, it could be
Well,
different for people.
it's the ultimate fear, isn't it?
Mm.
Death is the ultimate fear of this illusion. And I just want to share with you a teaching from a medicine ceremony, and I'm sure you've been through a death in a medicine ceremony. I certainly have, where I've been on my deathbed and died in the medicine in the
Oh,
illusion.
okay. Oh, I haven't actually. So this sounds
Yeah,
interesting.
which is
Yeah.
terrifying. But when you let
Mm.
go, and you surrender to death, to your own death, you shoot to source. It's just like, wow. And it's you
Yeah.
kind of, and then you get, oh my God, that just showed me how much fear I have around death. Now,
Mm.
I just want to share a medicine teaching which happened to me quite near the start of my journey to opening to shamanic medicine teachings back in 2000, a few years ago.
Yeah.
And the teaching was, it basically, this voice said to me, because I was in a very dark place in this medicine journey, and I just wanted it to stop. And I just like, I'm terrified. I want this to stop. And of course, you can't stop it. It's like you're on a roller coaster ride. You have to go through to the very end.
Yeah.
So I basically was kind of saying to the medicines, you know, stop. I can't do this anymore. And it basically, this voice said to me, this game is never over, and I have eternity to patiently wait for you to learn these teachings.
Mm.
So the one thing actually more frightening than death is the realization that there is no way out. The only way out of this game, this cosmic training program, is enlightenment. And you have to keep coming back over and over and over again until you have transcended the program, which is how to be love in every moment of every day. Now, we have, sorry, I'm hogging this, John, but I'm on a thought train here.
Carry on, carry on.
When you experience a medicine ceremony, which is a kind of microcosm of the macrocosm, and you're kind of shown how it works, truth, beyond the illusion of separation. In that ceremony, usually the energy, the vibration is rising, 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 rising through the music and the intensity and the shaman and everything and all the icaros that are being sung. And so the vibration is getting higher and higher and higher as they bring in the grid, the perfect grid of the mandala of energy comes into the room like a Merkaba. And what happens is, as that energy rises, anything that is out of sync, out of the grid, where the grid's distorted, any traumas, they start to purge through. And so everyone starts being sick or crying or screaming, or it's just like, and you get to this intensity of energy, and then boom, you burst through to the light. It's quite extraordinary.
Yeah.
So we have an evolutionary collective opportunity at this current time, if enough people can hold a high enough vibration. And a lot of people are purging right now. A lot of people are having to really fully feel all their grief, all their anger, all their fear, all of their judgment, all of their scarcity. It's being purged through. People are having to fully feel it. A lot of people are committing suicide. A lot of people are opting out and dying. So, but it's like the intensity of giving birth. The contractions get so strong. when you're giving birth, any woman who's watching this who's given birth will know, the contractions just get so strong and so intense that you just think, I can't go through with this, I can't bear this pain for 1 second longer, and then suddenly, boom, the head comes through and all the pain is gone. And so that's why they say, when the truth is revealed, all will be healed. Because when we get to that level of evolution and the veils part and we go, oh my God, and that's why the Buddha is laughing, the laughing Buddha. He gets it was all an illusion. He gets it was all an illusion. It was all a training program in love. And we were just given the most difficult, scariest monsters imaginable. And that's what's happening right now. I truly believe that. That's why we've got the threat of microchipping and all of this, you know, this yang metal. It's a yang metal year, the year of the rat. Needles, swords, AI, technology, you know, judgment, left, yes, no, AI, all works in terms of right, wrong, yes, no, on, off. So
yeah,
the intensity
feels like
is getting to that point now, and it feels like we're on the verge of a massive breakthrough, which is like the cocoon is in, the caterpillar's in the cocoon, disintegrating into mush, and is going to burst through into being a butterfly, and we will be in another dimension where we can fly, whereas before we were just crawling and consuming.
Yes, yeah, it does. It feels like a massive reset, and people have been given the opportunity to either allow that, if you like, not resist it, to be with it, whether it's good or bad, up or down, whether I've got the virus or I haven't got the virus, whatever's happening, just to be with it, and then with faith and staying centered, to move through it, and then on the other side, as you say, just like the birth, massive reset. There will be brand new opportunities that simply haven't been there before because of the evolution, and it's fine if people choose to check out, as I say. It's just a choice, and it's fine, and it might be the right time for many people to check out right now. Because with these changes, some people might not be in alignment with this reset, and I think that's good. That's fine.
The point is that, you know, at this degree, no one really exists anyway. So they're just like cells of a body. You know, if it's all one, it's almost just like cells of a body. Every day, some of your cells die. I mean, we were talking earlier that the deaths, you know, at the beginning of this, the death rate was not that different. It's only in the past couple of weeks it's really spiked, the year-on-year average. And a lot of deaths that would have happened anyway are being labelled as COVID-19. And you know, thousands of people die every year. Or, you know, cells of the body die all the time. And so death, what if death was the greatest liberation? Because you return to source. What if when you get to death, and this is when people talk about near-death experiences, they're not horrific, they're actually like, wow, I met Jesus and I went into the light and it was the most incredible experience. And that is like an ayahuasca journey. When you burst through into the light, it's just like, oh, wow, it's just like, you just experience the bliss of perfection, perfect resonance. You go, I get what God is. This God is a perfect resonance, and it's a perfect harmonic vibration.
Yes, yeah, it's like beyond illusion, beyond time and space. So if you're beyond time and space, then there's nothing. You know, it's just all as it is, and from that perspective, there is no Wetiko. There is no love. There is no spiritual whatever.
Think about it. Wetiko is just part of the very clever advanced gaming software. In every level of your gaming software, you have some kind of slippery, tricky bits to navigate. Like every hero's journey, you have, you know, Jason and the Argonauts, or all of these kind of myths. They all have the banana skins and the tricky things that you have to traverse. And so this is a very advanced training program. And so Wetiko is part of the tricky part of the programming of the challenges to reach enlightenment. And that's why, if you look at all of the great religious leaders like Christ, the Buddha, they all had to face Satan. They all had to face the demons, and they all had to really stand in to not fall into fear or temptation, whatever it was. And so
it's like they had to stand in their deeper truth.
Exactly, like with the Buddha, where all the demons were transformed into a field of flowers. So this is the thing, is standing so strong, and to be able to love the demon, because the demon is showing us an inner last place. Oh yes, please, darling, thank you. The outer mirror is showing us, it's perfect. It's showing us perfectly it's giving us clues for every last place of fear. And I was contemplating about the whole fear of vaccination. And bear in mind, we're in a yang metal year, which is the metal rat. So yang metal, the sword, the injection needle. So this deep fear, and it's mainly, I've noticed, among women, deep fear from women of this thing being inserted and shooting toxic substance into them. It's a fear of rape. At a very deep level, it's a very, very deep fear of violation through being injected against your will by overwhelming forces which you can't control. So at some level, if we can face that fear and collapse that, to me, that's actually what's at the root of it archetypally. And these are very, very difficult subjects.
Oh yeah, it's isn't it? It's very challenging times. I mean, I'm watching a series called Westworld at the moment on Sky, and they've got these AI robots that look like humans and are becoming more powerful than humans. But where there's a parallel is what we're talking about here is the secret code, this hidden code within them, and unless they become aware of their programming, then they're going the same way as humans. They're starting to kill each other. The Wetiko is just as much in AI as it is in humans. Yeah. That's the message in this program.
Interesting, yes, because of course this is the point this is why, again, the yang metal technology and AI, because it's all very yes, no, black, white. And if you notice, all the systems are now becoming more and more technology, and they're much more binary, do you want this or that? So as we move more into AI and technology and things being programmed, we're moving from heart, which is all about color and nuance and empathy. And I heard you say that, but I'm feeling that there's something you're not telling me. So that human nuance, that compassion, that ability to listen beyond the words and to feel and to tune into situations. Whereas the black and white, yes, no, judgmental, robotic place we're going, which is kind of represented by anything black and white, like the justice system. I mean, I'm just in a bit of a thing with that at the moment. Very interesting to go into the world of the police, the justice system. Guilty, not guilty. Right, wrong.
Yeah, it's black and white.
Convicted, black and white, yes, no. There's no, and it's really interesting dealing with the police because they have to be so hardened. Obviously, they're dealing with really difficult violent situations the whole time. So there's, and it's very triggering. It must be very triggering for them. So they are in a instant judgment of assessing a situation, arrest this person, don't arrest this person, or arrest both of them, or what it has to be, yes, no, black, white. And the thing is, because when we do very difficult jobs and when we have very traumatized childhoods, what happens is we have a lot of frozen trauma, and we literally can't feel. Our hearts get a hardened shell. It's our only way to survive. Like if you're a paramedic and you're constantly dealing with horrific things, you have to get to a place where you can cope in that situation. So what happens is you kind of create coping strategies. And so that's why every kind of crazy leader on the planet, like Hitler and even Bill Gates, actually, I was looking at his childhood. You know, if you look, every very powerful leader has got unresolved childhood, that huge childhood trauma, you know, that they had a very harsh upbringing, or like Hitler was regularly beaten to an inch of his life by his father. So that kind of trauma, when it goes unresolved, creates very hard-hearted, hardened people, and they are unable to feel. And that's how you get Wetiko working through those people, because they're unconscious and they've got these rifts, and the Wetiko energy can work through them. And that's how you get a Hitler who can happily order, you know, millions of people to be killed. And you also get unconscious followers of that leader who are very easy to program, because they're very in fight flight, they've got unresolved trauma, very easy to trigger into, I was just doing my instructions. I was very good at herding all the people into the gas chamber, and I was just doing my job.
Well, it's like the trauma from the First World War was never resolved, so then it had to act out again in the Second World War.
Exactly.
And unfortunately, you know, that hasn't turned into a Third World War because of all the shifts that have been happening since.
Maybe this is the Third World War, and the enemy is the coronavirus. Now, this is the thing about traumatic reenactment, which is a thing when you learn about trauma healing, is that if you haven't, and this is the part of the Wetiko, is that what the book explains is that if you haven't dealt with your inner trauma and healed it and looked at it and shined the light on it and transmuted it, you keep manifesting it out there in the illusion, and it's called traumatic reenactment. That's why if you have for example, a woman who's had an abusive childhood will keep attracting men who are abusive. Keep attracting the same kind of man, and then she'll split up and get rid of him and attract a new man in, and then he beats her up and she gets rid of him, and then she attracts a new man and he beats her up and then she gets rid of him, and so it goes on.
It's a blind spot.
It's a Wetiko blind spot. And so we're constantly drawing out of the soup of the energetic field people who match our energy to help us to work through. But if we're unconscious, we just go into blame and judgment. You're the one with the problem, you're toxic, get out of here, as opposed to saying thank you so much, thank you for showing up, thank you for showing me what I need to transmute inside me. Thank you, thank you, thank you. This is the essence of Ho'oponopono, the Hawaiian peace prayer. You know, I'm sorry, please forgive me, thank you, I love you. Because we see through the illusion, and we see that all of the enemies are actually gifts, and that we have manifested their pain, and sometimes they're completely unconscious of it. They might be horrific people with horrific trauma, and we've had to manifest these people to show us our inner cracks that need healing. And so we're manifesting huge collective trauma now. But to my mind, it's because we're actually quite advanced in the program. That's why the monsters are so big now, because we're very close to that breakthrough of boom, where the baby's head bursts through and we become the butterfly, and we reach the next stage of evolution where everyone wakes up and goes, oh my God, I get you're here as a gift, thank you, I don't need to fight you anymore. I don't, you know, we can create a world of peace and harmony because we don't need to fight anymore, because we've seen through the illusion of judgment and conflict. So this is a very interesting time. I feel a lot of hope around this. Yeah.
Wonderful. Well, I think that's a great place to finish. And any last words before we?
Yeah, I mean, just I'm conscious that I've hogged this call a bit, John. So I mean, give me your feedback on that, because how does that land with you? Does that concur with your feeling on it, or?
Yeah, very much so. Very much so. I kind of see two ways of looking at it. There's the collective Wetiko for the whole of humanity, and that's manifesting with this virus, coronavirus, and how people are responding to it or reacting to it. And then there's the individual work as well, where we can go in to our own history, our own stories, and work through, as we said earlier, any blind spots and any feelings. Yes, I love the emphasis about the feelings, because often the mind isn't going to give the answers. You know, the Wetiko is a clever virus. It can shapeshift. It can pretend to be the light. You know, it can do all sorts of things. So it's very easy to get lost in the mind, thinking, now I know why this has happened, and all I need to do is this. When really it's still that, you know, the Wetiko is still active. It's still confusing the person into believing they're right when there's actually a higher truth. So yeah, staying in the heart and feeling the truth from there, and know the truth, and the truth will set you free.
Yes.
But you know, we're not talking about beliefs here. We're talking about a deeper truth, something, as you say, it's based on love.
Yes.
You know, it's based on love.
And if I can just say one last thing, which is a very fascinating observation, and this has come through one of my teachers in feng shui and the whole Chinese metaphysics of the Bagua, is that the Northwest, which is the patriarchal father, the yang metal, the sword, the girders, you know, the structure, and that is very much about the mind, this yes, no, and being in the mind, all the detail. And it's also about scarcity, about limitation, saturnine. You know, there's only so much to go round, and there's not enough for everybody, and we have to have, you know, rationing and scarcity. Opposite that, in the southeast, is where the eldest daughter sits, and she is all about wind and wood. And because you can't see the wind, you can only see the wind by the trees swaying. So the wind and the wood work together. And so this eldest daughter is all about feeling and moving with the energy of and so moving from all of the mind, the story, which is very much in trauma healing. You want to move out of the story of what happened when you were 7, and you drop into the body. How does that feel? Where am I feeling that? Where am I feeling the contraction? And it's through somatic experiencing that you actually work through the trauma. That's why talking therapies aren't actually particularly helpful in transmuting trauma. That's why things like medicine work, where you're actually purging out of your grid all of these places where the grid has been contracted and damaged by, you know, emotional or physical blows. I mean, literally, it is the grid being warped in some way. So as we heal, we come back into perfect resonance, like the flower of life here. And so the more we come back into harmonic resonance, the more beauty and the more love that we create. But the Wetiko is showing us where those last bits of distortion are, like a bum note, you know, like a difficult chord, like a musical instrument that needs to be tuned. So when we come into our heart and we're really feeling our way through life, we can start to feel, this feels a bit off. This feels like a contraction. What's going on here that I am sensing? So we move out of the mind into the body. It's very powerful. So we move out of the patriarchal father into the eldest daughter. And that, I believe, is why the Dalai Lama said that Western women would save the planet. Is that essence of moving from this masculine yang metal into this feminine wind and wood energy, which is all about abundance, all about Gaia, that there is enough. There's enough food to feed everyone. There's enough for everyone. And we can create a world of love, joy, peace and harmony and prosperity for every being, not just the 1% who managed to play the game and win, you know.
Yes, yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely, yes, yeah. And the, you know, I was talking about the collective consciousness with Wetiko, and we can each play our part on an individual level. But ultimately, like with the coronavirus, it's about finding, if you like, the antivirus. So not as in against it, just as in healing it. And I see for the collective, and maybe hopefully this is a mirror for the coronavirus, as we find an antivirus, that will also find an antivirus for Wetiko. In other words, that evil, that hidden evil, which has been running human consciousness since the beginning of time, will be exposed, seen for what it really is, you know, this deeper truth, and then released forever. So,
well, you said it earlier, it's love.
Yeah.
Can I love this? Yeah. Can I love this? And can I thank it? Can I really love it for showing me all my fear, for showing me all my grief, for showing me my fear of death, for showing me all of my sadness and my grief, for showing me what scarcity feels like, what it feels like to go to a shop and not be able to buy any food, even though I have loads of money. This is the thing, because money is yang metal, lives in the Northwest with the patriarch, you know. So suddenly I've got this money, but there's no food to buy, you know. So we're starting to appreciate Gaia. We're starting to appreciate how beautiful it is not to have planes in the sky, how there's less pollution, how we have got time to just sit in our gardens and plants and vegetables. And it's very beautiful to actually unhook from all of those programs which say we've got to be busy, you've got to be productive, more is better, bigger is better, you know, growth is good. Like, can we unplug from those programs and just be in harmony with the wind and the wood, and going with the flow, and being okay with just that, being in the now moment of I have enough.
Yes, yeah. And many of those programs you just mentioned, the negative ones, are, if you like, Wetiko programs. You know, we need more, we need money, we need this, we need that. All these desires which have got completely out of hand at the expense of the planet. So
and you see, this is the point, is at the root of those, at the root of there's not enough, and I need more, and I need to be bigger and better, and I need to win. At the root of all those is deep childhood trauma, which is I'm not enough, I'm not lovable enough, I'm not this enough, I'm not that enough. And basically it comes down to not being loved fully when we were young. That is really all trauma comes down to, that is not being fully loved and properly parented when we were young. It's such an important role, being a mother and a father, and we unwittingly, because we're carrying out all these Wetiko programs, unconsciously following the script of the gotta work and gotta be successful, and that we've lost sight of what true success is, and that is being love. And what greater love can you be than to be love with your own children, and to just so love them so much that you just nurture them and are just there for them unconditionally. You know, I love you. It doesn't matter what grades you get at school. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter to me. I just love you unconditionally. I mean, that is the greatest gift that we can give our children. And unfortunately, the program draws us in the other direction of being harsh and critical and controlling and you know, punishing our children for not being this enough or that enough. So to me, that really is the place to get to.
It's a lot easier if children get that when they're young, because as adults, there's a lot of reprogramming and a lot of lack, and that still needs to be addressed.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, absolutely. And yeah, sharing the love for everybody, you know. It's but yeah, it's often easier when it's your own child, but eventually with the oneness, with the understanding that we're all interconnected, that we're all deep down, we're just love, and then we can just share.
And that's the thing, because as a mother, you know, you don't just want that for your own children, you want it for all the world's children. You want it for every single child on this planet, you know, at that level. It's not just, oh, as long as my family's okay. We're seeing the results of how that has worked out, where it's just, well, I'm all right, you know, as long as I'm all right, it doesn't matter about everyone else. We're realizing that actually it's about everyone being okay, you know.
Feeling okay. And
you know, running the world like a family, like a mother would, of like, everyone is loved, everyone is nourished, everyone's fed, everyone's safe, everyone gets a nice warm bed, and everyone's looked after. That's the kind of world. And I kind of don't think that is going to necessarily come from the masculine patriarchal metal yes no place. It's going to come from fully feeling, and enough of us really fully feeling that and holding that vision for a different way of being, which we're already starting to experience. Yeah. So yeah, interesting times.
Yes.
Thank you for initiating this conversation, John, and inviting me on here.
Pleasure. Really enjoyed it. Yeah, been great. Covered a lot of ground, and feels very uplifting.
Yeah.
Cool.
Okay. Lots of love.
Yeah, love to you.
Yeah. Have a great day.
Thank you.
Okay.
Bye. Bye.
Bye-bye.